I'm Phoebe, live from Orleans Park School.
And we're here with the latest news coming up in the next few minutes.
First up, Sphere, the subject of homelessness. What do you think about it?
In this day and age, it's hard to believe that over 130 people in Richmond sleep rough every night.
Here is Morgan, giving us more information on the story.
Over to you, Morgan.
Last week, Sphere, a local homeless charity, came to visit Orleans Park School in Richmond. I was lucky enough to speak to Heidi about her work with Sphere.
Sphere is a local homeless charity that's been helping people suffering from homelessness for 30 years in the southwest London area. We're not celebrating the fact that we're still here 30 years later. It's actually about saying to people we're still needed 30 years later. Homelessness over the last 5 years has doubled, so our services are needed as much now as they were when we first started.
Heidi invited me to come to Sphere's office in Twickenham, where I met Daniel, one of the people the charity has helped. He told me his story.
I experienced being homeless when I was about 12. We had a house fire in my house and we become homeless, so we had to find elsewhere to live. Once one bad thing happens, another bad thing happens, and before you know it, you're in the situation of being homeless. You feel isolated from your family, you feel isolated from just the general public. You feel like no one cares.
I spoke to Stuart, who runs Sphere.
Homelessness isn't just about not having somewhere to live. So it's a symptom, if you like, of someone's life. There being other problems and difficulties in someone's life that's led to that situation. And there's a human being in the middle of that situation.
What misconceptions do you think members of the community might have about homelessness?
I think sometimes people look at homeless people and think it's their fault and that they're to blame, and it's not a choice. No one chooses to be living on the streets.
To be able to make changes in your life, you need to feel confident, you need to think it's possible to change, you need a support network, you need opportunities, you need some stability.
Sphere's actual saying is from homelessness to independence.
How would you say that members of the community could get involved and do their bit for Sphere?
It's about understanding what we do and spreading the word about what we do and telling people about us and telling people about Sphere and being ambassadors for Sphere.
I spoke to Rosalind, one of the sixth form students in our school, who volunteered with Sphere.
I definitely think about the issue more and definitely aware of it as a local issue rather than something that, you know, you shouldn't think about in London because it's a wealthy city. And every time I walk past a homeless person I think about how Sphere could help them.
Because we see it every day when we walk to school and when we walk home.
It's an amazing thing to see when you see somebody who's gone from one place to a much more positive place and changing their lives, and with a bit of help a lot of people can get to that place.
This is Morgan, BBC News School Report, Orleans Park School.
It's great to see all these emails and tweets coming in. Sticking with amazing stories, we will now be talking about young people and politics. Only 39% of young people in the UK care about their own politics. Why?
Should young people get a say? Why aren't they getting involved? Let's pass over to Jess.
Over to you, Jess.
Could you raise your hand if you would consider yourself to be engaged with politics? Okay, so would you consider yourself to be involved with politics?
Not really.
Why not?
Because I don't have enough, for example, I don't have enough information to make for example, an opinion or a voice.
Do you think we could help young people be more interested?
Well, maybe introduce it a bit more at school, add it a bit more, like maybe some assemblies about that, talk about it a bit more and choose a time, introduce that more into school.
Cool, thank you very much.
39% of young people voted in the general election, but for Brexit the turnout was much higher. Why do you think this was?
I'd love to know. I want more young people to be voting, and I think that's where you are in a very strong position to actually inform people like myself where we have not got the message across and we haven't encouraged people to vote. I always say I would rather everybody voted regardless whether they vote for me or against me.
After interviewing some of my classmates about what they thought would help them be interested in politics, they They said that the school providing them with some information would be a useful tool.
I think it depends on your teachers and your governors about how they allocate resources. For me, politics comes into almost every subject. So if I remember my school days, I would say politics probably came in English literature, certainly in history lessons, and for me now I'm on Science Select Committee and allocating resources and prioritising research projects, that's all political. And
a lot of media involved in politics is aimed at adults and therefore kind of difficult for children to understand. What would you do to improve this?
I would ask you how the message could be better, because I think sometimes you underestimate how brilliant you are at challenging people like me. So just what you've done today shows me how able you are in this way. I've been approached by other groups, some people with learning disability who have lobbied extremely well.
How do you think campaigning via social media affects young voters?
Again, I'd love to know, because what I would love to do every time somebody has physically gone into the polling booth, I would love to interview them immediately afterwards and say, how did you vote and why did you vote that way? And nevertheless, I think sometimes if I did that, I might not get the real reason. I would only get the conscious reason rather than the subconscious reason.
That some young people believe that their vote doesn't count. How can we change this?
Vote. Everybody has to vote.
Thank you very much.
Something else that's going around recently is, do disabled people take part in sports as much as they should?
Did you know that 15% of the world are disabled?
Mitchell went to interview people to see how much they take part in sports.
Over to him.
We are here today on this Friday lunchtime to find out the opinions of disabled people on involvement. This club, run by Miss Kitch, is one of the few inclusive sports clubs for abled and disabled.
Why did you set the club up? This school offers a wide range of sporting experiences. We wanted to ensure that every student has the opportunity to attend an extracurricular club.
Sounds like there's a lot of opportunities in disabled sports, but do you think there is equal opportunities in disabled sports?
This has improved since London 2012 and the success of the Paralympians.
As you can see, this club encourages teamwork, friendship and working with different abilities. This game you see behind me is called Boccia. The aim of the game is to get your coloured ball closest to the white one. Whether you are disabled or not, this game can be played by anyone. Another sport played here is goalball. In goalball, all players are blindfolded and are required to throw a ball with a balance. If they score, a point is added. If they don't, the other team get a point. This is an especially good game for blind competitors. It is about trust and listening carefully for the ball. Emma, one of the athletes who come to the club, is now going to talk about sport and how it affects her life. So Emma, what do you think about the Friday Club and people in it?
I love it. They're great friends and it's just nice to have a culture of having, my mum calls it a gang, and I think that's what's most important about it. We go around and we run around and everybody's used to us, and it's just great fun to have something that's just us a lot of time.
So Emma, overall in the world, what athletes do you find inspiring?
I always find the Paralympic athletes, and especially in swimmers, inspiring. I absolutely love the swimmer called Lisa Livid.
And we're going to talk about inclusivity in sport. Billy, what are your opinions on disabled sports?
I think it's good for disabled people, and because they can't do sports that able people can do, so it's good for them.
Okay, what sports do you play with?
I do athletics, football.
What's that behind you?
Patrick, what sports do you play?
I play football a lot outside of school, but I play rugby for Leeds.
Okay. Do disabled people take part in the sport?
Yeah, I think they should take it. I think it's not as wide as, obviously people who aren't able to play sport, but I think they should be able to play it.
Good morning, I'm Bertie.
And I'm Alice.
Talking of disability, what is life like? Here is Louise with more information.
Today I'm at home with Caroline and Jeff, who are both born with a disability. My first person who I'm going to interview today is going to be
What
Caroline.
is your disability?
That's a tough one. My disability is called arthrogryposis.
How hard is it to manoeuvre around shops?
Oh yeah, that can be hard.
Okay, you are different from everybody else.
Yes, definitely, of course. I believe everybody's different in their own way. We're brought up to be individual. We're brought up to have our own ideas, our own beliefs, etc., etc. So life would be very boring if we were all the same.
And has there been any times where you've really wanted to be able to walk?
Of course, I wouldn't be human if I didn't.
Well, thank you for letting me interview you.
You're welcome.
My next interviewee is a man called Jeff, who isn't in a wheelchair but only has one leg.
Go. Disability. Thank you for letting me interview you today, Jeff.
That's all right.
I'm only going to ask you a couple of questions, if that's all right.
Yeah.
My first question is, what is your disability?
My disability is that I have one leg.
How do people react to you?
When I'm wearing long trousers, I get a different reaction. People think I've just got a limp or something wrong with my leg or hurt my leg. If I'm wearing shorts, they can see I have an artificial leg and they react quite differently. A lot of people will offer to help, they'll open doors for me, they'll ask if I need help. Kids are funny because they think I'm a robot, which is quite cool actually. Everybody's individual. My disability makes me who I am.
Well, thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
Thank you to all the interviewees that let me ask them a few questions. I hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully this has given you more of an insight to what life is like with a disability. This has been Louise from the BBC School News Report. Thank you for watching.
A really inspiring story. Now over to a slightly strange topic. Is it morally right to make a hybrid of an ancient mammal?
I think this will spark up some news. Not sure about this one. Are you?
We'll wait and see. Over to JJ.
So as you are aware, 10,000 years ago there were these immense beasts known as mammoths, and they dominated half of the globe. Though the reason they became extinct is unaware, most people today believe that they were hunted to extinction by an apex predator, humans. Though what many geneticists, scientists and even paleontologists believe they can do is they can resurrect a creature such as the mammoth. Is this morally right?
On the moral side, it would be a great achievement for the human race. On the immoral side, it's not a mammoth.
What do you think of it? Because I know you were talking about both sides of the story. What did you think of this?
I think it's immoral.
Thank you. Thank you.
If we have the opportunity to save something that we destroyed, then yeah, we should do that. What's the negative?
So your final conclusion is?
It is morally right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my first question is cloning this ancient animal morally right?
Well, it depends. First thing, it depends on what you mean by cloning and what you think they're actually doing. So the idea in the public's mind is that we will be able to copy the genes of a mammoth or some other organism and then in some way recreate it. That's not currently possible. So what you see in Jurassic Park is not possible, and even the researchers aren't actually suggesting they're going to do that. So there's a bit of a mismatch between what the researchers have been talking about and what the media have been talking about. And now I think it's probably wrong. There's a problem. You have this mammoth-like elephant, or if you were able to, a complete mammoth, pottering around, but it wouldn't know how to behave. It wouldn't smell right. It would be very lonely. And elephants are mammoths, I guess, too, a very intelligent animal. So I think there's a lot of problems with it.
Though this isn't possible right now, would it be possible in the near future?
No. That's a very short answer. Not at all. It would be very bold if I were to say it would never to happen, but it would require such a lot of technology or a lot of very brave or foolhardy behaviour, that it is many, many years, probably decades away before it even becomes possible.
Professor Cobb, thank you so much for your time and answering all my questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
What an interesting story.
Yes, it was. I wonder what will happen.
Our final story is about One Water.
From less than 10p, a person can be saved from dehydration by One Water.
Let's now go to Finley.
So my name is Duncan Goose and I run a business called One, which is mainly a bottled water company, although we do produce soft drinks as well. And we're a bit different that we give away the money that we make from that to fund water projects in about 14 African countries.
Interesting. Can you tell us what products you sell to?
We sell our water in a variety of places, so places that you would know like Starbucks or Holland & Barrett. We also supply a lot into airlines like Virgin Atlantic, and we supply a lot into what's called the food service sector. So if you have a canteen at school, we supply schools and universities and places like that.
So Duncan, can you tell us a bit about the history of One Water?
Well, my background was in advertising and marketing, but I spent 2 years riding a motorbike around the world between 1998 and 2000. And along that journey, I was in a hurricane called Hurricane Mitch, which killed 20,000 people. And I got to experience firsthand what it was like to be in a country that had been absolutely devastated. And when I came back to the UK, I was really interested in how I could try and help people in developing countries. And there was a photograph that was published in the Guardian newspaper in December 2003 of a young girl sat by a padlocked tap in the biggest slum in Kenya. And that really was the motivation for me to try and find a way to get water to people. And the thing that I discovered then was that over 1 billion people in the world didn't have access to clean water. So that was why the business was started. It was really to try and help people.
So how can people get involved?
Well, there's a few different ways that you can get involved. One of which is obviously to buy the water, because that directly helps people. And the second way that people can get involved is do any number of kind of fundraisers. So if you go to our website, which is onedifference.org, there are about 3 or 4 things that you can do. Some of them are slightly more crazy than others. So we have people that walk 100 kilometres over 24 hours. Which seems to be quite popular with people, and they seem to raise a lot of money doing that. But there are other things they can do. It's sort of schools. They do things like water lift challenges, where we get people to carry a jerry can full of water so they can get an experience of what it's like for people in Africa. But the best thing to do is go to onedifference.org and look up the different things on there.
Well, thank you very much, Duncan, and we'll hope we can raise the profile of One Water at Orleans Park.
Thank you very much.
Wow, a fascinating story. Yes, Tis. Thanks for watching. Now let's go over to the local news.
Thank you, Bertie and Alice. We shall certainly be buying One Water from now on. Hi, I'm Alexander.
Hi, I'm Gazelle, reporting from Twickenham with all the latest local news.
What is worse, the Brexit or the Heathrow expansion?
What devastations has Storm Doris caused now?
First up, many people have been debating over which is the bigger issue, Brexit or the Heathrow expansion. Here, with more detail, is Max. Over to you.
I am here on the South Bank with John Stewart, leader of the anti-Heathrow expansion campaign. Do you feel that Heathrow expansion is a bigger issue than Brexit in Richmond and Twickenham?
That's it. Whether Heathrow expansion is a bigger issue than Brexit is a very interesting question. It was tested at the recent by-election, and it would seem to suggest to me that Brexit is a bigger issue in Twickenham and in Richmond than the third runway at Heathrow.
What is the main reason for you being anti-Heathrow?
Because a third runway will mean 250,000 more planes a year coming to land and take off at Heathrow. That will mean even more noise for people in London under the flight paths, for people in Richmond, for people in Twickenham.
Do you feel the same could happen to Tanya Mathias as what happened to Zach Goldsmith?
It's very difficult to say whether the same thing could happen to Tanya Mathias as happened to Zach Goldsmith. It will be close anyway in Twickenham because Tanya Mathias has got a much smaller majority, but general election is a few years away yet, and I think it's too difficult to call.
I'm here to interview Vince Cable on the topic on what is a bigger issue in Richmond and Twickenham, Heathrow expansion and Brexit, and why?
But the problem is the more and more flights you have coming from there, the more and more disturbance it creates for the local residents. It's already a major problem in summers, late evening, early morning for those under the flight path. It also adds to pollution, not just global pollution, carbon dioxide, but what we call NOx emissions, which have a big effect on asthma. And there have been some serious warnings that if Heathrow continues to be expanded, it's not so much the aircraft but the ground transport. And quite apart from all those things, there are practical questions about who pays for the expansion, how much is paid for by the taxpayer, if it's just done privately.
Hi Dr. Mathias, I'm here to ask you some questions regarding the topic I'm focusing on in my report.
Heathrow obviously affects us right now, and Brexit is going to be developing over the next couple of years, but they'll both be affecting somebody like yourself, from school now right through, and I hope you stay in Twickenham, right through to your adult life in Twickenham as well.
Why are you anti-Heathrow expansion? What is the main reason?
There are several. I say Heathrow should be better, not bigger. We need expansion of air capacity in the southeast. But as you know, Heathrow affects 750,000 people. We have problems with air pollution, noise pollution, and the finances don't add up.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next up, with all this talk of Storm Stella, Storm Doris, which has caused total destruction in Richmond and Twickenham, has been creating even more problems for citizens. Here is Susie with more on the story.
And I am here where the tree fell on St Margaret's Road just last week, and here obviously is the stump that's caused a very large hole in the road. So firstly, did this affect your day personally in any way?
Yes, it did, because we have a routine where we have patients booked in, patients booked in at set times. Some patients couldn't get here because the buses had stopped. And so people were arriving late, they couldn't get through on the telephone because everybody was trying to call us to say that they couldn't get here. So yeah, it did affect the surgery running.
I live some way away and I travel by car, so it wasn't too bad getting home. I mean, I was obviously already here by the time it happened, but no, that didn't cause me any problems.
Do you know, I'm not sure I knew about that tree falling down on the day of Storm Doris until very late on because of picking up the travel disruption.
And were you informed about it immediately, or were you found?
More or less. We had a lot of patients coming in, quite excited and quite sort of shocked because apparently the tree was over 100 years old.
No, we were open. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning. We just heard a loud bang. The tree didn't actually make any noise as it went over, but obviously as it hit the ground.
Obviously, were you quite frustrated when the tree fell because it did damage one of your fences?
Yeah, well, it totally destroyed the far corner of the fence, and completely shut the road for the whole day. So yes, very frustrating.
Well, that's all from us today.
Now over to sport with Seb.
Footballers around the world have a massive dilemma. Should they move to China or stay at home? Let's find out. Over to Luke.
So, Mr. May, we know you're head of PE. What do you think about China poaching our best players?
Well, I actually think it would be a really good opportunity for our young players. Teams like Chelsea and Arsenal have a lot of foreign-based players in their team, and if some of those players are attracted to go and play in the Chinese leagues, then it might create opportunities for our young homegrown players to play in those top clubs, which could then actually help out our national team in our tournaments.
So Mo, we know you're a keen footballer. What's your opinion on China poaching our best players?
Ooh, I think it shouldn't really make a difference in the long run, because most of our best players really want to play in the Champions League, and if they go to China they won't qualify to be in the Champions League. So I think, and also looking at, I read something about the first game of the Chinese league, only 16 people turned up, so that really would have an effect.
So do you think that China will be a next football superpower?
I personally don't think so, because
a lot of the people that they're buying and getting to be able to play there almost retired, so they'll be gone in 2 or 3 years, so they won't really have any superstars, if you will, to play in the league.
Well, that's all we have time for. Have a great day.
Goodbye.